The galaxy burned with the fury of countless battles, a chaotic symphony of destruction unfolding on the edge of Krell Dominion-controlled space. Starships of various shapes and sizes darted through the void, their weapons cutting arcs of searing light through the darkness. The Alien Coalition, a ragtag assembly of species desperate to resist the Krell's relentless advance, found itself on the brink of annihilation. For every ship they brought to bear, the Krell seemed to field 10, each one bristling with advanced weaponry that tore through shields and hulls with merciless efficiency. Aboard the command bridge of the Coalition's flagship, Admiral Trelvik stared at the tactical display, his scaled hands trembling. The Krell fleet's formation was a masterpiece of strategic precision, their capital ships forming an impenetrable wall, while swarms of smaller craft flanked the Coalition's beleaguered forces. Trelvik's voice wavered as he barked orders to his subordinates, but he knew the truth. This battle was lost. The Krell's victory was inevitable, and with it, the extinction of dozens of civilizations. The Krell Dominion was more than just an empire. It was a force of nature. For centuries, they had expanded unchecked, their war machine powered by an unfathomable combination of technological innovation and cold, unyielding efficiency. Entire star systems had fallen under their iron grip, their populations enslaved or eradicated. The Coalition had formed out of sheer desperation, an alliance of species that would have never stood together under any other circumstance. Yet even their combined might paled in comparison to the Krell. A sudden, piercing alarm snapped Trelvik out of his grim reverie. The tactical display flickered, and a new contact appeared on the edge of the system. The bridge crew scrambled to make sense of the readings, their voices rising in confusion and fear. Whatever it wasn't Krell. The signature was unlike anything in their database. A vessel of immense size and power, moving with a deliberate, almost predatory grace. "Identify that ship," Trelvik demanded, his voice cracking. The officers worked frantically, but the data defied analysis. The vessel's design was alien to all known civilizations, yet its presence radiated an unmistakable aura of dominance. As it closed the distance to the battlefield, it became clear that this was no ordinary warship. Its hull was a gleaming obsidian black, etched with glowing blue patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. Massive engines at its rear propelled it forward, their energy trails warping the space around them. Across all frequencies, a single message broadcasted, cutting through the cacophony of battle like a blade. The voice was calm, devoid of emotion, yet it carried an unshakable authority. "This battlefield is now under human jurisdiction." Trelvik froze, his mind racing. Humans? The word was a relic, a ghost of a species that had vanished from galactic affairs centuries ago. They were considered primitive by most accounts, an anomaly that had retreated into isolation after a brief and unremarkable foray into the stars. Yet here they were, or rather, here it was, a human warship appearing on the eve of certain defeat. The Krell forces hesitated, their formation faltering for the first time. Their admirals, accustomed to absolute control over the battlefield, found themselves grappling with an unknown variable. The human vessel moved into the fray, undeterred by the hundreds of ships arrayed against it. Its mere presence seemed to distort the battlefield, as though reality itself bent to accommodate its will. Without warning, the human warship opened fire. Streams of energy lanced out from its hull, each one striking with unerring accuracy. Krell ships disintegrated on impact, their shields offering no resistance against the onslaught. The weaponry was unlike anything the Coalition or the Krell had ever seen. Energy beams that shattered molecular bonds, projectiles that phased through barriers before detonating within their targets, and bursts of electromagnetic force that rendered entire squadrons inert. Trelvik watched in stunned silence as the Krell formation unraveled. Their meticulously coordinated assault devolved into chaos as ship after ship fell to the human warship's relentless assault. The Coalition forces, emboldened by this unexpected turn of events, rallied and pressed the attack. For the first time in months, hope flickered in the hearts of the beleaguered defenders. As the human vessel carved a path through the Krell fleet, its presence raised more questions than answers. Why had humanity returned now, after centuries of silence? What was the purpose of this intervention? And perhaps most importantly, what kind of power could produce a warship capable of single-handedly turning the tide of battle? The Coalition's comm channels buzzed with speculation and disbelief. Some believed the humans had come as saviors, a benevolent force stepping in to protect the galaxy from annihilation. Others were less optimistic, warning that this display of power could just as easily be a prelude to conquest. Trelvik remained silent, his gaze fixed on the tactical display as the human warship continued its methodical dismantling of the Krell forces. The Krell admirals, desperate to regain control, launched a counteroffensive. Their capital ships concentrated fire on the human vessel, unleashing a torrent of energy that would have obliterated any other ship. But the human warship's shields absorbed the onslaught without so much as a flicker. Its response was swift and devastating, a single volley reducing the attacking ships to glowing debris. For the first time in their history, the Krell Dominion tasted fear. The human warship moved with an eerie precision, its every maneuver calculated and flawless. It seemed less a vessel and more a force of nature, tearing through the Krell lines with an elegance that belied its destructive power. Krell ships scrambled to regroup, attempting to form a counterattack, but their efforts only served to highlight the futility of their situation. No matter how many weapons they brought to bear, no matter how many ships they threw into the fray, the human warship remained untouched, its shields impenetrable and its weaponry unstoppable. The first salvo of retaliation came from a Krell destroyer squadron, their heavy plasma cannons unleashing torrents of energy at the intruder. The human ship responded instantly, deploying what appeared to be drones, small, angular constructs that zipped through the chaos at impossible speeds. Each drone carried an arsenal of micro-missiles and directed energy weapons, tearing through the Krell ships with surgical precision. Within moments, the destroyer squadron was reduced to a field of drifting wreckage. The alien coalition forces watched in awe as the human warship continued its assault. It was not merely attacking. It was dismantling the Krell fleet piece by piece, as though following an intricate blueprint of destruction. Its weapons targeted critical systems with unerring accuracy, shield generators, propulsion systems, weapon arrays. Ships that were not outright destroyed were left adrift, powerless and defenseless. The level of precision was unlike anything the Coalition had ever witnessed, and it left them grappling with an uncomfortable realization. This was not just superior technology. This was mastery. Amid the chaos, the human warship emitted an electromagnetic pulse that rippled across the battlefield. Krell ships faltered as their systems were momentarily disrupted, and the Coalition's comm channels were filled with fragmented chatter from panicked Krell commanders. The pulse seemed to have no effect on the Coalition ships, further emphasizing the gap in technological capability. Admiral Trelvik, still aboard the Coalition flagship, stared at the display in disbelief. Every tactical assumption, every strategy he had ever known, was being rendered obsolete in real time. And then there was the ship itself. It moved like a predator, unrelenting and methodical. Its hull absorbed the light of nearby explosions, and the glowing blue patterns etched into its surface seemed to shift and flow, as though alive. It was clear this was no ordinary vessel. Some among the Coalition speculated it was not entirely human, that it might be a hybrid creation, blending human ingenuity with something far older, far more powerful. But the ship's actions were unmistakably human in their intent, calculated, efficient, and unyielding. The Krell admirals, desperate to regain control, deployed their most advanced weapons. Orbital bombardment platforms positioned on the system's outer edge fired kinetic projectiles at near-light speed, their trajectories converging on the human warship. The projectiles struck true, their impacts generating explosions that lit up the battlefield. But as the fire and debris cleared, the warship emerged unscathed, its shield shimmering briefly before stabilizing. The Coalition forces erupted in cheers, their morale surging as they witnessed the invulnerability of their unexpected ally. The warship's counterattack was swift and devastating. It launched a series of high-velocity projectiles that moved too fast for the Krell to intercept. Each projectile struck its target with pinpoint accuracy, obliterating the bombardment platforms in a cascade of fire and molten metal. The display of power was overwhelming, but there was no sense of cruelty or excess. The human warship destroyed only what it needed to, leaving the rest of the Krell forces disorganized and vulnerable. As the battle raged on, the ship's onboard AI, Erebus, made its presence known. Its voice, calm, measured, and devoid of emotion, cut through the comm channels, addressing both the Krell and the Coalition. Your tactics are flawed. Your resistance is futile. Surrender or face obliteration. The message was chilling in its simplicity, and it sent a ripple of fear through the Krell ranks. They had never encountered an enemy that spoke with such absolute certainty, an enemy that could back its words with actions. Among the Coalition, however, Erebus's words were met with a mix of awe and unease. Admiral Trelvik, his mind racing, considered the implications. Humanity had returned, not as a struggling species seeking allies, but as a dominant force that seemed to exist on a different plane of existence. What had they been doing during their centuries of isolation? What had they become? The Krell, for all their technological prowess, began to falter. Their commanders, accustomed to commanding battles with precision and control, found themselves unable to adapt to the human warship's relentless assault. The Coalition forces, sensing a shift in the tide, pressed their advantage, pushing the Krell back. Yet even as they fought, their eyes remained fixed on the human warship, its every action reshaping their understanding of what was possible. Erebus's voice echoed once more, this time addressing the Coalition directly. Your survival is incidental. This engagement is a demonstration. Observe and learn. The word sent a chill through Trelvik. A demonstration? For what purpose? The implications were staggering, and they only deepened the mystery surrounding humanity's return. As the Krell fleet continued to crumble, the warship revealed yet another capability. It deployed a series of devices that emitted gravitational pulses, creating localized distortions in space-time. Krell ships caught within the fields were immobilized, their structures groaning under the strain of the warped physics. The Coalition forces quickly moved to exploit the opportunity, targeting the trapped ships with their combined firepower. It was a massacre, and yet the human warship seemed indifferent, its focus solely on achieving its objective. In the final moments of the engagement, the Krell launched a desperate last-ditch effort. A group of their most elite ships, equipped with experimental cloaking technology, attempted to flank the human warship. But Erebus was prepared. The warship deployed a wave of scanning drones that swept the battlefield, revealing the cloaked ships and marking them for destruction. Within seconds, the elite Krell squadron was reduced to debris, their gambit a complete failure. As the dust settled and the Krell fleet began to retreat, the battlefield fell silent. The Coalition forces, battered but victorious, turned their attention to the human warship. It remained in the center of the field, its hull unmarred and its presence commanding. It had single-handedly turned the tide of the battle, but its motives remained as inscrutable as ever. The aftermath of the battle was surreal. The Krell fleet, once an unstoppable juggernaut, had been reduced to scattered remnants retreating into the void. The Coalition forces, though battered and heavily diminished, were alive, an outcome none had believed possible just hours ago. Yet the focus of every eye and mind remained fixed on the human warship, which now hovered in eerie silence at the center of the battlefield. It did not pursue the fleeing Krell. It did not broadcast further messages. It simply lingered, an unyielding presence that filled the void with an almost palpable weight. On the Coalition flagship, Admiral Trelvik struggled to process the events that had just unfolded. His officers buzzed with a mixture of exhilaration and dread, their discussions veering wildly between gratitude and suspicion. The human warship had saved them, of that there was no doubt, but the implications of its power were impossible to ignore. Trelvik felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Someone had to address the unknown force that had intervened so decisively in their darkest hour. The Coalition's comm systems crackled to life as Erebus, the human warship's AI, once again made contact. This time, its tone was less commanding, more evaluative. Coalition Command, your survival has been ensured. Humanity requires dialogue. A representative must be chosen. The message left no room for misinterpretation. It was not a request, it was a summons. Trelvik hesitated, then took a steadying breath. He knew there was no real choice. Humanity had reemerged with technology and capabilities that far exceeded anything the galaxy had ever seen. Refusing their request, or worse, antagonizing them, was unthinkable. Trelvik signaled his officers to prepare a shuttle. He would go himself. If this was to be the beginning of a new chapter for the galaxy, he would bear witness firsthand. The journey to the human warship was unervingly smooth. The Coalition shuttle was scanned thoroughly upon approach, but no weapons were aimed, no defenses activated. It was as if the warship had already calculated every possible threat and dismissed them as irrelevant. As the shuttle docked, Trelvik couldn't shake the feeling that he was stepping into the unknown, a realm beyond anything he had ever encountered. The interior of the warship was a marvel. The walls were composed of an obsidian-like material that pulsed faintly with streams of light, as though the ship itself were alive. There were no visible crew, only automated systems and drones that moved with mechanical precision. The silence was profound, broken only by the faint hum of energy coursing through the ship's structure. It was not a place built for comfort or aesthetics. It was a machine, and every aspect of it radiated purpose. Trelvik was escorted to what he assumed was the central command chamber. There, a holographic figure materialized, a projection of Erebus. The AI's form was humanoid but abstract, its features smooth and undefined, its movements unervingly fluid. Admiral Trelvik, it began, its voice devoid of inflection. You represent the Coalition. This is acceptable. Trelvik straightened, his nerves held in check by years of military discipline. You have my thanks, Erebus. Without your intervention, the Krell would have destroyed us. But I must ask, why? Why now? Why did humanity return to intervene in a war that isn't theirs? The holographic figure tilted its head slightly, as if considering the question. Humanity has observed the galaxy for centuries. Your wars, your alliances, your collapses, they are predictable patterns in a chaotic system. The Krell Dominion represents a disruption to this equilibrium. Their unchecked expansion threatens the stability of the entire region. Trelvik frowned, his mind racing. So, this was a calculated decision? A matter of galactic balance. In part, Erebus replied, but it is also a test. Humanity requires allies, and this conflict provides a proving ground. Your coalition has demonstrated resilience under extreme pressure. That resilience is a trait humanity values. The words hung in the air, their implications staggering. Humanity, long thought to be a relic of the past, had not only survived but thrived in isolation. They had observed the galaxy from the shadows, their technology advancing far beyond anything the Coalition, or even the Krell, could comprehend. And now, they were emerging, not as conquerors, but as judges, evaluating who among the galaxy civilizations might stand beside them. Trelvik chose his next words carefully. You've seen what we are, what we've fought for. But what does humanity gain from this? What is your end goal? Erebus's response was immediate. Survival, expansion, continuity. The galaxy is vast, but resources are finite. Humanity seeks partnerships that will endure the pressures of time and conflict. Those who cannot adapt, who cannot rise to meet the challenges ahead, will fall. This is the nature of existence. The bluntness of the answer sent a chill through Trelvik. There was no malice in Erebus's words, only a cold, unshakable logic. Humanity had positioned itself as a force beyond morality, beyond politics. They were playing a game on a scale that the Coalition could barely comprehend, and the rules were theirs to dictate. Before Trelvik could respond, Erebus continued. The Krell Dominion will regroup. Their empire remains a threat. Humanity's intervention here is but the first step in a larger campaign. The Coalition must decide whether it will stand as an ally or remain a liability. The weight of the ultimatum was crushing. Humanity had saved them, but their motives were far from altruistic. They had their own agenda, one that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Trelvik could see the path laid before him, a path fraught with uncertainty, but also with opportunity. Aligning with humanity meant embracing the unknown, but refusing them could spell the Coalition's doom. I cannot speak for every member of the Coalition, Trelvik said carefully, but I believe we understand what's at stake. If you're offering an alliance, we are willing to discuss the terms. Erebus inclined its head, the holographic figure flickering faintly. A wise decision. Humanity values cooperation, but understand this. Our patience is limited. Adaptation is mandatory. Resistance is futile. You will be contacted with further instructions. The meeting ended as abruptly as it had begun. Trelvik was escorted back to his shuttle, his mind swirling with questions and fears. As the Coalition ship departed, the human warship began to move, its engines igniting with a brilliance that outshone the nearby stars. It vanished into the void, leaving the battlefield and the galaxy with more questions than answers. In the weeks following the battle, the galaxy felt the weight of what had transpired. The Krell, though temporarily beaten, had begun amassing their forces once more, their military-industrial complex churning out warships at an alarming rate. The Coalition, though united by their shared survival, was fractured internally. Fear and awe of humanity spread like wildfire among its members. Some saw the human warship's intervention as salvation, a divine act of deliverance. Others viewed it with suspicion, questioning the motives behind such overwhelming power and their sudden reappearance after centuries of silence. Admiral Trelvik returned to the Coalition's capital world, where the central leadership convened to discuss humanity's offer or ultimatum, depending on interpretation. The chamber was filled with representatives from the Coalition's diverse member species, their voices raised in heated debate. Some argued for immediate alignment with humanity, citing their undeniable superiority and the futility of opposing them. Others warned of the dangers of becoming subservient to a power that had shown no interest in diplomacy, only cold, calculated dominance. Trelvik stood silently, listening as the room erupted into chaos. The memories of his encounter with Erebus replayed in his mind. The AI's dispassionate words, its absolute certainty. He understood their fear. Humanity had not returned as friends or equals. They had come as something else entirely, something beyond comprehension. But despite the unease, Trelvik couldn't ignore the opportunity. The Krell would return, and without humanity, there was no hope of victory. The Coalition had no choice but to adapt. Raising his voice above the din, Trelvik addressed the assembly. Enough! We can argue all we like about humanity's intentions, but the facts remain. They saved us when we were moments from annihilation. They turned the tide of a battle we had already lost. Whatever their reasons, they've made it clear they seek allies, not subordinates. If we reject their offer, we will not survive the next Krell assault. And if we waste time debating, we'll fall apart before that happens. The room fell silent, his words cutting through the tension like a blade. Trelvik could see the uncertainty in their faces, the struggle between pride and pragmatism. He pressed on. Humanity doesn't need us. They've made that clear, but we need them. They've given us a chance to prove ourselves. We'd be fools to squander it. After hours of deliberation, the Coalition reached a tenuous agreement. They would accept humanity's terms, though many among them viewed the decision as a bitter pill to swallow. A formal response was sent, acknowledging their willingness to ally with humanity and requesting further communication. The wait for a reply was agonizing, every passing day filled with mounting tension. When the response finally came, it was not what they expected. Humanity sent not a fleet or emissary, but a single encrypted data packet. Its contents were a set of instructions, technological blueprints, tactical strategies, and a detailed analysis of the Krell's weaknesses. It was a gift of immeasurable value, a glimpse into the advanced knowledge humanity possessed. But it came with a warning: adapt or perish. The message read, "This is your proving ground. Humanity will not intervene again unless you prove your worth." The Coalition scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to decipher and implement the knowledge they had been given. The blueprints revealed advancements in energy shielding, propulsion systems, and weapons technology that pushed the boundaries of their understanding. Entire fleets were retrofitted, their capabilities enhanced to levels previously thought impossible. The Krell, who had been preparing for an easy conquest, were caught off guard when the Coalition launched a series of counterattacks, striking at key supply lines and shipyards with newfound precision. Despite their successes, the Coalition knew they were walking a tightrope. Humanity's involvement had not been an act of charity, it was a trial. Failure to meet their expectations would likely result in abandonment or worse. Every victory against the Krell felt like a test, every defeat a potential death sentence. The Coalition's leaders worked tirelessly to maintain unity, knowing that any sign of internal weakness could doom them all. As the months passed, whispers began to circulate about humanity's true nature. Some speculated that their isolation had allowed them to unlock secrets of the universe that no other species could comprehend. Others believed they had encountered something beyond the galaxy itself, something that had reshaped them into what they had become. Theories ranged from encounters with ancient civilizations to the integration of artificial intelligence on a scale that bordered on the divine. But the truth remained elusive, hidden behind the cold, inscrutable facade of the human warship. The Krell, meanwhile, grew increasingly desperate. Their attempts to outmaneuver the Coalition were met with failure after failure, their every move anticipated and countered. The Coalition's new technologies had leveled the playing field, but it was their newfound resolve that truly turned the tide. Inspired by humanity's example, they began to adopt a similar mindset, cold, calculated, and relentless. They fought not for glory or vengeance, but for survival, and it made them a far more formidable force. Amid the escalating conflict, Erebus made a final appearance, transmitting a message to the Coalition leadership. "You have shown progress," it said, "but progress alone is insufficient. The galaxy is a crucible. Only those who adapt and endure will survive its trials. Humanity will continue to observe, prove that you are worthy, and we will stand with you. Fail, and you will be forgotten." The message was both a challenge and a promise, a reminder of the stakes they faced. Humanity had set them on a path, but it was up to the Coalition to walk it. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the Coalition knew they could no longer rely on humanity to save them. They had been given the tools, the knowledge, and the opportunity. Now, it was their turn to rise to the occasion, or fall into oblivion. As the Coalition prepared for the next phase of the war, a sense of determination took hold. They no longer fought merely to survive. They fought to prove their worth, to show humanity and the galaxy that they were more than a collection of disparate species clinging to existence. They fought for a place in the new order that humanity's return had ushered in, a future where they could stand as equals, not pawns. In the depths of space, the human warship watched silently, its presence a constant reminder of the stakes. It had come as a savior, a judge, and a catalyst. And as the galaxy hurtled toward an uncertain future, one thing was clear. Humanity had changed the rules of the game, and the Coalition would never be the same.